I think it came from a personal thing that happened to me. Is my mother passed away 10 years ago, and I was very close to her. I was very close to my father, and my father and I and the rest of my family went into the mountains. And after this whole period, we noticed that the buffer of my mother between my dad and me had gone a little bit. So, you know, there were some old things that came out, and I thought would be interesting for a movie. You know, it could be that my relationship with my father is maybe also interesting on a more universal level for other people with their parents. And then I love snowboarding. I always loved extreme sports, this challenge, this fighting with nature or dancing with nature. And so those two elements came together in this movie, I think. Yeah. No, I didn't know them at all. I just knew them because in Holland they were quite famous, so I knew them from a distance. But initially I was looking for real skiers, Olympic skiers and their children, and I wanted to have like a real person, not an actor. But when they got the script, they really liked it, so they let us know that they would like to audition. I was like, oh, it could be interesting to have a real father and a real son, not a real skier, but like a real relationship. And when they came to the audition, it was clear immediately that they had such a fantastic dynamic with so many layers and nuance that you would never get with actors. So it was very clear, yeah, from the beginning. I think it's really, for me, it was really about dominance, you know, one person trying to dominate the other, nature, in fact, dominating everybody. So this word alpha also stands kind of for dominating. So that was really a central theme in the film. Like, nature is always in a struggle. It's always fighting, and it also makes people stronger. It makes animals and everything stronger to have this struggle. But it's also a nasty struggle, and so this struggle for dominance and for survival seemed to become one thing in my movie, and that's how it ended up combining these two aspects. Yeah. Actually, I looked at a lot of old Italian movies, so it's not a typical snowboard skiing movie. I really looked at movies by Antonioni. I looked at movies like L'Eclisse, which has this beautiful surroundings of the city, and this had this open ending. And I thought, wow, the city is really a character, and I wanted this for the mountains too. So I think if you see the movie, you will find a little bit the influence of these older films. Also a film like Ida, where the sky and the buildings are always a big part of the screen and the characters are in the bottom. We try to also do that, where the mountains are always the top end of the screen and the actors are below. Yeah. It was, you know, I love snowboarding and skiing, which is always a nice experience, so I thought it would be okay. But the reality is, if you stand still all day at 2,000 meters, you get cold much, much quicker than when you're moving or snowboarding. So within a couple of minutes already, my feet were starting to freeze, and the same for the actors. So we had to give everybody these heating pads, and so the cold was just, the main challenge was the cold. It's just, if you stand still, then you have to keep moving not to be cold. And for a movie, you're standing still a lot of the time, so that was very intense. Working with the actors was difficult because in the snow it's difficult to move around. So if they had to reposition the scene, they had to walk again through the snow, climb back to where they were. So it was very physically exhausting for everybody to move. And so we have to keep the set and the crew very small. Yeah. Somewhere halfway in the film, it turns. The power and the dominance turns from the father to the son, because the son knows the nature better. He's, of course, younger and stronger. And so it's basically how the generations pass on to each other. The father, at a certain point, passes on to the son, and the son becomes the new father, basically. Yeah. I don't know, it happened to me with my first movie already, that when you write a full stop, then it's no longer a word, it's a sentence. So, and then it's part of a story. A sentence is part of something bigger. And so this visual aspect to me was like, oh, there's something before and something after because of this full stop. And if you just have a name, then it becomes just a word. But now it's more like a part of a bigger story, a sentence. So that I think that's why I like it. Yeah.